Hey. So, I thought I was going to talk a little bit about knowledge sharing and the idea of the 10x programmer or the lone wolf or whoever, like, I don't know what you want to call it. I suppose that's the stereotypical view people have of programmers these days, or not these days, maybe we have like that the profession has gotten a little bit more of like a PR campaign towards, us actually being regular old humans, I don't know. Anywho, so one thing you will learn very quickly is that in general there are two types of programmers in the working force. You have the average run-of-the-mill social person who may or may they're just regular people who go about their business and do their job. And then you have the lone wolf, and the lone wolf it's probably if you're not a programmer and you have no idea what it's about, I'm pretty sure this is the Hollywood image of a programmer. It's this social anomaly that and I've seen varying degrees of these people, where they basically have very little in terms of social skills. They like their computers because it can get them as far away as humanly possible from human interaction. Now, there are pros and cons with these two types of people. The good part about having a lone wolf is that in general, and I'm not saying that this is always the case, but in general, the rule is that the lone wolf type of programmers work very well in isolation. You don't have to give them much in terms of, they like to solve their own problems, they like to keep things to themselves, and they like to work alone, which is great if you have a small project, or if you, for whatever reason, are not building a team, you're looking for a single developer. That makes absolute sense. However, I don't know how to put this in a nice way, because it's really a bad, in my opinion, it's overall a bad thing. The that's the old idea that that what's so effective about these people is that they're basically animals that churn out code, or machines that churn out code. The problem is that if you are not a non-technical person, you have, because they to a very large extent lack social skill, you have no idea if they're building something good or something bad. Odds are that if you're lucky enough to find a genius lone wolf, then that person can probably build. Yeah, it's also a stereotype, but the idea is that they can build something amazing for almost nothing, which is great. However, that's usually not the case. So what the industry has started to realize, and I get this all the time, it's that social skills do matter quite a lot, even in this, what they in general, technical and unsocial. Well, it's not even that. It's the idea is that it's unsocial, but it's really not this profession that I'm in. So the issue with lone wolf is there's a few issues. However, you can make it work. Now, why you want social people is more or less because, apart from the general stuff, you get a sense of team and you get all that other good stuff, is knowledge sharing. And why am I talking about knowledge sharing? Well, this is something that is so critical to the long-term benefit, the long-term survival of your project. It is actually so critical that if you do it wrong, which is the case with Ticketmaster right now, it can actually break your entire product. And what I mean by that is I'm going to tell you what's going on. So right now there is roughly a week or something like that until we are like collectively getting fired from the office. And then we have our resignation notice period, of course, but still, like, most of the people are already gone, and there are a few people still at the office, which means that we have, for the last year, to give you a little bit of context, been tasked with, had a new team down in Belgrade that we have been training. And in essence, that's why, like, the idea was that, hey, we'll lie to all these people that are working at Ticketmaster, and, you know, tell them that we're reinforcing their team. But nobody was dumb enough to believe that. Everybody knew that, you know, if you're reinforcing our team, that you're putting up something down in Belgrade, and you're thinking about this more from the economic perspective, and, you know, then we kind of know that you're gonna fire us because you're moving everything down to Belgrade. We knew that a year ago, so now it's happening. And the issue is that the bigwigs at Ticketmaster have vastly underestimated how much there is to learn about the largest ticketing system in the world. Who would have thought that, you know, there's a bit of knowledge sharing that has to take place. So now they're talking to us about doing that. We've actually been tasked virtually to stop, like, the regular daily work and focus on knowledge sharing. So what's the problem with this? Well, the problem is very simple. There is more to learn than we can possibly transfer. Why is this a problem? Well, because we have no plan or priority of how we're going to transfer all this knowledge, which means that the team down in Belgrade, they're in a very, very bad situation, because they have, like, in a few weeks or a few months, they're still calling every time they're going to do something that's critical to the system. For the most part, they need a lot of support still. And when we are gone, they have no support, because we haven't worked for long enough together, and we have, like, the idea was that they were going to become autonomous as quickly as possible, in essence becoming a silo where, you know, they get productive really quickly. That's the same thing as the lone wolf. If you isolate yourself from the collective pool of knowledge, your understanding of the system and your ability to, especially in a large system, because nobody knows everything about the system, it's too big. I mean, even me, I wouldn't say that I have a critical role, but I made that clear to the others the other day. I said that, you know, my colleague Alan, who is the other front-end guy, he's on parental leave, and he's not coming back. So that leaves me and this guy I've been training, who is nowhere, like, he's been in the business for a while, but he's not a front-end developer, which means that when I quit, which is going to be fairly soon, they have nobody. And the guy who is supposed to take care of this, he doesn't actually know exactly how everything works. So when there's an issue, he has nobody to ask, and he most likely can't solve the problem. The same goes for at a larger scale, which is, you know, with the whole team. So we are now trying to, like, rapidly teach them the things that are at least critical to maintain the system. And we had a discussion, me and my colleagues, the other day, where, like, we were saying that, you know, even if they stop developing the platform and we're just focusing on bugs and maintaining the system, there's too much to know for them to be able to solve the problems that occur. And if there's a critical system failure, which happens not fairly with a fairly frequent cycle, then they are going to have to solve this problem without having a real understanding of how to do that. And imagine, like, so like, all the knowledge, all the people who know exactly how to solve these problems, they're gone. So they have people who've been working here for a year who are going to somehow fix a problem that's too difficult for them to kind of fix. And imagine being in that team. I mean, I feel absolutely no resentment for the people down in Belgrade. I mean, they're just doing their job, and I feel sorry for them, because they are going to be under so much pressure to deliver, because the idea is that, you know, this is an economical move. They want the development to still be maintained, but at a cheaper salary rate. That's the idea. The problem, as I said, is that they're going to put so much pressure under, because these people were hired under different pretenses than what's happening today. I mean, if you would you like ask yourself, would you take a job where you are offered absolutely almost nothing in terms of training, then you're expected to maintain a really, really large system that has been poorly maintained for a long time, where you don't really know what's going on for the most part, and then you get blamed and complaints because you're not productive enough. You're getting, like, it's just a shitstorm basically being in their team right now. So think about that. How fast do you think they're going to lose that team? We have a pool. I'm betting that most of the team there is going to be gone between 6 months or a year from where the last people in my team are gone, because then they have nobody, and the pressure is still there. So that puts Ticketmaster in an interesting position. So they've lost all the people who built the system, who know firsthand how it works, and they lost, most likely, the people who have a limited understanding of the system. And now think about this. This is one of the largest systems in the world. You can throw as much money as you can possibly. You can throw money at this problem, but it won't go away, because there are people who have intimate knowledge about the system that is not shared anywhere else, because like there is no knowledge sharing. It doesn't matter how much you document. Most of the stuff that lives in some key people's head, and because they don't have a culture of making sure that everybody has a full understanding of the system, etc., etc., they're in a really bad spot. So it's very, very important. That's why you want people to be social, to like interact with each other, and have this idea where everybody has a joint responsibility for every part of the system. Because as soon as you start creating these silos of key people in your project, you get into a situation where you get dependent on things that are, how do I put it? You create choke points of capacity, of knowledge, and all of that stuff. And these choke points are what will cripple your project. And that's why the lone wolf is so dangerous for a project, because if you have a single person who builds a large part of the system, and only he or she knows how these things work, it doesn't matter if they're the small. Like, I would even go as far to say, if you're hiring developers, and like most companies I've seen will actually go with developers that are less skilled, but have the social aspect, and have like openly share knowledge and openly have a social interaction with all their colleagues, because they know that even if you get a super genius mega programmer, the 10x programmer, and that person does a lot of fancy stuff in isolation, which is, you know, what they do, they can build, like, as soon as they leave, the project is in jeopardy, because nobody knows how it works. Nobody, like, and that's actually that's really, really dangerous. And in large system, especially for companies that are poorly managed, where you do a lot of consultancies, and you basically just move your project from one consultancy to the other. Like, what happens is that you just have people who hack and shim in more and more features and functionality, just to close the contract with your company. And sooner or later, trust me, if you don't understand this, you shouldn't be in IT. Sooner or later, the system is going to be so shitty that it doesn't matter how much money you throw at the problem, because you have no way of solving it. Like, I mean, if you think that you can just keep on adding stuff without maintaining it in coding, you're wrong, because sooner or later things will get so messy or so hard to work with that you can't progress any further. And that is what's happening right now at Ticketmaster. So we'll see how it turns out. But to you guys who are, have your own startups or your own companies, be sure that you're hiring people who are social enough that, they don't go into their own little bubble and build something nobody understands.